Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'm audible. I'm visible now. Good evening. Good evening. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes and then we'll begin. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I told you, Gayu, that I will start late. I took your 5 minutes, so I gave you your 5 minutes back. So yeah. Didn't I say that I'll come at 5:35? Okay. So we'll wait for 2 minutes and then we'll begin. Let everybody join in. Yes, Sai, yes. Entire ancient and medieval 7 and 7. 14 modules have been covered. All 14 modules covered. 7 plus 7 done. Now 10 modules to cover. Total 24 modules are there. Anybody wants to call? I'm opening the live call feature if you want to call. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Keep on joining in quickly. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Okay. So we start the first module, which is architecture. In this, we cover two parts, ancient and early medieval, which is basically till temple architecture, and then it is medieval and modern. So this is part one, and you have part two. Part two is medieval and modern, and this is ancient and early medieval. Now, every module starts at a different point because of the thematic which we are covering. So when we are covering architecture, the first theme which we have to cover is Indus Valley civilization, because prehistoric period, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Can we talk about architecture in that context? For Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic? No, because their structures do not survive. What we have are archaeological records. We have tool technology, which we've already covered, but manifestation of architecture is in the Indus Valley civilization. That brings us to the first question, and a fundamental question. What is architecture? What is architecture? Now, the answer to this question is very straightforward. Architecture is the physical manifestation of the art and aesthetics of that period. Of that period. What this means is that it is related to what is called grandeur and stability. These two are very, very important. And why do we study architecture? Because of three things. It gives us the history of the economic situation. It gives us an indicator of political stability. And it gives us an understanding of art and the tastes that prevail in choices and aesthetics. What it means is that when it comes to political stability and architectural expression, these two will have a inverse relationship or a direct relationship. Inverse relationship, direct relationship. What is this and this? It will be a directly proportional relationship, which means that more the stability, more the architectural expression, less the stability, less the architectural expression. Because if you are making big buildings, there has to be certain type of political stability. Economic stability, what type of relationship will it have with architectural expression? Inverse or proportional? Directly proportional, which is that if economic prosperity is more, then architectural expression is more. And therefore, the study of architecture gives you an understanding of a lot of things which would not have been possible or is not possible for a period where we do not have texts. We don't have texts. We are only relying on archaeology. So I think we all understand what is architecture and why is the UPSC so interested in architecture generally. Are we clear with regards to this? Yes? Yes, no, I have to say something, then we move forward. Okay. Now, when we talk about the Indus Valley civilization, or what we call as first urbanization, hymns in prayer start with bhakti only because one of the Vedas is also combination of hymns. No, hymns in public is bhakti movement. The Vedas were never recited in public; they were recited in a certain ceremony. So there is a difference between these two, Hardeep. So Indus Valley civilization, which is also first urbanization, what are the architectural features? Now here, the Indus Valley people have been very kind to UPSC aspirants. We should go back and thank them. We are extremely indebted to them that their basic features, their basic features are also their architectural features. Basic features and characteristics are also architectural features. So, if there's a question in the mains examination, what are the salient features of the Indus Valley architecture. What are you going to write? What are you going to write? Very good. Which is very simply citadel, drainage, pattern, grid pattern, bricks, sewage, house, standardization, basically everything which we know of in that regard. So, just to give you a basic slide, architectural features. Architectural features. Let's make a diagram. One suggestion to all of you, whilst I'm making this, please try to find a piece of paper and a pen. I would be asking you to make something by the end of this class. So my request to you, please do find a piece of paper or something. We'll be making something with me. Okay. You don't this you don't need to make. Just have to note it down. Just have to understand it. Nothing more. Nothing less. Don't have to make this. I will ask you to make something when I'll ask you. Okay. So, what is the first feature? Citadel, Lower Town, division of private and public spaces. First thing. Second, grid pattern in roads and town planning. Banavali is the exception. Radial. Thereafter, you have drainage system. You also have sewage system. Then you have wells and water management. Wells and water management. You also have rainwater harvesting system. Further, in the houses, we have what we call as 6-7 houses, 2-story, and toilets are attached. Further, standardization of bricks 1:2:4, and very simply, the way the whole civilization was planned, it was managing its fresh water and gray water very well. That is basically the concept of separation of gray and fresh water. Separation of gray and fresh water. Granaries, we have specific concepts. Second is grid pattern in roads and town planning. Banavli is an exception where radial plan you have, not grid plan. Sure, door opens to the side. Very good. Doors open to side road. Anything else? Public bath, dockyard, sure. But those will be specific features. Public baths, which is great bath. Then you have certain places where we find dockyard. We find step wells. Now, though this is there, I want to show you certain images also. This is the great bath, and this is how now going to be our standard protocol. We will keep on, I'll try to keep it as visual as possible, because visual memory can actually take you very far. So you have great bath, you have side lanes, you have main roads, 90-degree north to south. And I want to show you one more very interesting feature. In the rural areas, the bricks are sun dried, which you can see here. But in the urban sector, you have what are called kiln dried bricks, jisko what we call as bhatti, and that gives you a red color. So they were very clear in what type of color, or rather what type of brick they wanted to use. In the rural areas, we have sun dried bricks, which are yellowish in color, and in urban areas they have bricks which are reddish in color, which you have today. Have you seen a brick? What is the color of the bricks which you see today? The color of the bricks today is what? Red. That red comes because they are put into the kiln, bhattis, where they are burnt to become hard. That gives you a crimson red color. On the other hand, when you are keeping it in the sun, they are lightish in color, lightish yellow. This is again a very interesting feature. Further, we find in multiple places very good water management. You have Lothal dockyard. The wells were connected with irrigation channels. And the most important, these are called step wells. They're called step wells, which are called bowlies later. And very simply, this is a water tank or a reservoir. Very important. Why Dholavira? Why Dholavira? These are all three are out of Dholavira. During this time, how they make rectangular brick shapes, that is all by a ratio of 1:2:4. They had molds which they used to use. Without any modern geometry, they were able to do it. Now, anybody has any issues with regards to the basic features? This we have done as the first module when we started way back 1 month back. Anybody has any issue in these? Come on, first this. Anybody has any issue in this? Anybody? Come on. No? Then let's talk about Dholavira specifically. Let's talk about Dholavira specifically. And why are we discussing Dholavira specifically? How did they used to do rainwater harvesting? They had collecting areas which used to were connected to wells. So the water used to come and then go down the wells itself. Why are we discussing Dholavira? Because Dholavira is UNESCO World Heritage Site, and more than that, it is the only Harappan site, or rather only Indus Valley Civilization site to have this tag. Further, it is got this tag for water management. So the beauty of Dholavira was that if you recreate the Dholavira map artistically, it was one of the architectural marvels of its period. Because what it had was, on both sides, it had a water body. And what they used to do was that they used to check dam this sector and allow the water to fill in the reservoirs around the city. For the students who are of science background, when water evaporates, what does it do? What does it do? Very good. Evaporation causes cooling. If you have certain amount of water here, if it will evaporate, it will take the heat, thermodynamics, heat away from your skin, and that causes cooling. That is why if you ever make your hand very, very wet and put it in front of an AC, AC sucks moisture. So it will take the moisture away from your hand. That will lead to formation of cooling. That is why you would have seen that a lot of different shopkeepers throw water in front of their thelas or in front of their shops. They're throwing water because by doing that, the evaporation will cause cooling, so it will become more comfortable around that place. This is a scaled level, a level at which they were basically cooling their city. They basically survived by pushing water into their reservoirs, taking it from here, and then pushing it out from here. So they are taking it from one sector and then pushing it out of the second sector. And this leads to cooling effect. So in the heat of Gujarat sector, they had a own mechanism of cooling the city down. This is why Dholavira gets a distinction of being called a World Heritage Site. Other than that, it has a ceremonial hall, a citadel which basically looks like a castle, in the sense that it is not very high, but is fortified. So very simply, the plan of Dholavira is unlike any other Harappan city. Other Harappan cities are on flat ground. And therefore there is citadel and lower town. Citadel lower town is not true for Dholavira. wherein there is a fortified castle area which we believe is a citadel, and the other areas, the middle town is next to it, but there is still separation of space. Separation of space. So very simply, Dholavira was in itself a marvelous or architectural marvel, if you want to call, because they were using technologies which we thought of and know of very late. So very simply, when we talk about cooling, did not understand. Shushmita, what is your background? Not on the same grounds mean, not on same ground means what, in what context? See, if there is low upper town and lower town, upper town and lower town, there is this concept, but they can't do upper town, lower town. Rather, what they do is they make a small platform and then make a fortified sector there. So we call it castle. So very simply, they have a separation of space, but not very distinct as upper town and lower town. For people who did not understand the concept of cooling effect, then I'm literally teaching you science, which is that when on a surface there is water, when water evaporates, the energy which is needed for evaporation is taken from the surface it is on. So evaporation, when it goes up, and this is a hot surface, so it will absorb the energy of the hot surface. So therefore, when it will become steam, it will very simply take away the heat from this sector. So evaporation causes cooling. Standard concept, right? Yes, sweating is also a very good example of this. That is why we sweat. We sweat so that the sweat is then going to get evaporated so that we get cooled down. That is to very good, Himanshu. That is to very simply keep our body temperature constant. So if we are clear with regards to this, I would like to consolidate this sector by writing all the features down at one place, and then we will go further to Mauryan period. Dholavira not having natural uplift area, no. In a lot of areas, there was no natural upliftment, but the Harappans made sure to have a very tall, very high upper town. But if you are using evaporation is causing cooling effect, and if you keep an area too high, it will not affect. So it was a adjustment for the type of place it was. See, Dholavira is near the run of Kutch. Run of Kutch at this point of time is very dry, but did not seem to be dry at that point of time. But it's a very heated area, so you have to do something. Then how does then surface tension of fluid react? Wow. I don't know how that is relevant to our. I have no idea why you're asking me that question. Surface tension of fluid react with what? See, I'm PCM with economics till my 12th class. So I know what you mean by that. So don't worry, giving me these words, surface tension is not going to put me off. But that is an incorrect or incomplete question itself. How does surface tension come into evaporation causes cooling? I have no idea. So either I've studied wrong PCM with economics, or you are asking me something which is some ISRO level science. So Vivek, please enlighten us how this is relevant to our discussion. I'll make it public for everybody to see. If anybody wants to answer, I will be happy to put your answer also as public. Surface tension react. You guys figure it out. I'll meanwhile write down the features. If somebody has an answer for Vivek, please do answer. I will very simply. Everybody is asking Vivek, react with what? Surface tension is surface tension. But how does it react with what? Please enlighten us. We are not discussing fluid dynamics. PCM with physics, chemistry, maths, with economics. I'm from a science background. Don't worry about that. PCM with economics. 4 major subjects. English, 5 major subjects. Physics, chemistry, maths. Some people have computer science. Some people have economics. You would know it. Yes. With respect to fluid mechanics. Sure. So he has sent us this message. Please, somebody who is more capable than me, can you please answer? Okay. Features of Indus Valley civilization. I can guarantee somebody would here be an engineer or aerospace scientist or something. They can answer, please. First, separation of space, upper town and lower town. Lower town. Or citadel and lower town. Administrative, private, public. Even if it is the science class, this is UPSC, not a UPSC levels. Fluid mechanics does not matter. Don't need to know fluid mechanics to clear this examination. Okay. So Shubham has been very kind to push this to us. Thank you, Shubham. Surface tension is a phenomenon in which liquid over top layer is under tension. If more surface tension, then less evaporation. I hope, Vivek, you get your answer. Evaporation rate is inversely proportional to surface tension. Very good. Thank you, Himanshu. Very good. See, scientists are sitting in my class. As it is, we have sent Chandrayaan 3 to the moon. Very good, very good. Thank you so much for this. So we can come back to art and culture. Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Shubham, for enlightening us about this. नीट का एग्जाम दे रहे हम लोग. ठीक है. सेपरेशन ऑफ स्पेस, सिटाडेल एंड लोअर टाउन. Anand, I don't care. Okay. Separation of space, upper town, lower town. Second is grid pattern. Grid pattern and the concept of what we call as streets at 90 degree angle. Third, water management. You don't need to write it. I'm making notes for you, so why would you write? Water management and rain water harvesting. Fourth, you have drainage and sewage management. Then fifth, you have very simply fifth would be 1:2:4 brick ratio for city and what we call as very simply the fort walls. No, not fort, city walls, same thing. House walls. Sixth, standardization. Seventh, you would have the concept of very simply house with a courtyard. Eighth, house with courtyard. Eighth, no doors or windows towards main street. Ninth, toilets. 10th, water tank, wells and step wells. Any other point? Standardization of construction of material. Standardization is something standard. Okay. Anybody wants to add another point? Very good. 11th, sun dried and kiln baked bricks. Very good. Granaries for storage. Great bath feature. Sure. That is something which you can add like this. 12th, great bath, granaries. 13th, fire altars. Then window towards roadside, already answered. Seals and all is sculpture, separate issue altogether. 2-story buildings. Dockyard. See, you get my point. You get my point. Very simply, you can write any point possible, multiple points. Anything which you can remember at that point of time, write it down. So I'll give you a practice question. You can do that question after the session, and that will help you consolidate this area. Anybody has any issue in these points? We are basically revising what we did in ancient. So because we did ancient, we don't need to spend more time here. Very good. Perfecto. Perfect. Great. So very simply, let me give you a question. This is going to be a standard feature again. I'll keep on giving you questions so as to tell you what type of questions can be asked. I'll take one small session wherein I will also tell you this, elaborate, elucidate what these basic words mean. So I'll try to give you as much knowledge for mains answer writing also, because now there's answer writing angle also in this aspect. Art and culture needs more revision. Yes, it needs equal revision, but here your conceptual clarity needs to be even more, because writing an answer is an art. Filling the OMR sheet is not an art. That is the science of recognition. The answer is in front of you. You should just know how to recognize. Prelims is the story of recognition. Can you recognize the answer itself? There are certain statements. The answer is in front of you. So you just need to fill those small OMR, and that is not an art. That is your intellect. Can you apply that? Mains is a different cup of tea altogether. There, the page is blank, and the examiner wants to see your golden words. Swar Akshar, what you will write. So therefore, it is important that you know how to write in that regard. How to consolidate all this information. Shivam, I'm not asking you to do it in one day. If I say that every day, 15 minutes, you have to learn one point, which is given here. Can you do it? Every point which I've written here, can you learn 2 points every day? Yes, you can. Then your work is done. Without fail, just keep on practicing and keep on revising. It is not rocket science. You've already seen one of the most factual areas, ancient and medieval. I may gave you maximum 50-60 facts. This is totally different in that regard. Here you have to have conceptual clarity. I'll give you that type of question also, don't worry. Let me give you that type of question. You will see how you can apply this knowledge. Question is here. Practice question. Now, the not Harappans, I will not write. The Indus Valley civilization architecturally is comparable to modern cities and towns. Analyze 150 words. 10 marks. Do you get the question? The Indus Valley civilization architecturally is comparable to modern cities and town. Analyze. If you are comfortable doing analyze, there could be one more type of question. Do you agree? Whichever you like to answer. The conclusion is going to change. That is it. That's it. Can I move to Mauryan period? Can I move to Maurya? See, what is the ideal time? Have you been told anything about answer writing? What is the structure? How much time? What is the way? I'm presuming I can put in 10-15 minutes. That's not an issue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I presume, okay, very good. So you already know what is answer writing. So for a question like this, you would be expected to write it within 7 to 8 minutes. 7 to 8 minutes. But you can't do it right now. No way. See, you have to write an introduction, you have to write a body, you have to write a conclusion. Simple point is, as per the 150 to 250, this varies from 30 to 50 words. This is always 100 to 150 words. This is 20 to 30 words. That is on the number of questions, number of words you have to write. Which is that 150 words seems very a lot of words, but it isn't. 7 to 8 minutes is an ideal time for any answer in mains. Maximum 9 minutes. But for that, you need practice. The only way you become better is practice. Any video, any chamanprash, any form of liquid you drink, somebody gives you a magic potion, still you will not be able to write it in 9 minutes until unless you're writing it on a regular basis. And there are three preconditions. I get good marks, but time never follow what to do. See, three preconditions for writing a mains question. Three preconditions, same power. Firstly, you have to be within this time. To bring down time, you have to write more. Then only writing speed increases. Writing speed will only increase if you will write more and more. The more you write, the more better you will be in a position to write it in a quick fashion. I'll give you a very simple example. When I was in BA honors or masters, we were given 3 hours to attempt 4 to 5 questions. But in one question, we write 25 pages. Basically 12 sheets, 12 to 13 sheets. So in 3 hours, we are writing close to 100 pages. That is only physically possible if you write at home and you are in a practice of writing. That is the only way it can happen. And that is how painfully we all learn. There is no other way, because if you compromise on the next two, then there's no point writing anything. Within this, you have to be firstly grammatically correct. And second, handwriting should be good. Because after checking close to 10,000 sheets in Delhi University, once you are in time crunch, two things happen. Is, are, and, the starts to go away. And second, you start to write in a script which you only know yourself. Standard process, which is you'll start to write for yourself. Nobody knows what you're writing. But if you're doing that, the UPSC examiner has to check 15 to 16,000 papers. He does not have, or she does not have, the patience to make out what you're writing. Simply. He or she does not have the patience to make out. That very simply, I am writing anything in any type. No, doesn't make sense. So you have to keep these things in mind, because students have good handwriting but they don't have speed. They have speed but they don't have good handwriting. They have both, but then they write like they're in the first or second class. That anything. Maurya were good. They had best pillars. Standard, brave, tod ke. Them stand, very simple, straightforward English they will start to write, which makes no sense. Gandhi will become anything. Chori chora becomes chori chori. I've seen that also. So I've seen students write anything, any spelling, whatever they like. Anything. Moria, chori chori, Mountbatten. These are not spellings. Understand this point. Harappa. This is not right. So you have to make sure that you're not doing spelling mistakes also. I'm taking this time to say because I've seen it. I have for sure seen it. Students do anything possible. Understand this point. Jinnah. Now Jina and Jinha become the same thing only. Khalisa, Khalifa, everything mixed up. Khilafat becomes Khalisaf movement. This is not going to be tolerated by the examiner. Have to be grammatically correct. Spellings have to be also be correct. And this is the issue with art and culture. Till this point, I've never asked you to learn any ruler's name. But you can't write Ashoka. Please, these are very basic things expected from a student who is writing the mains level examination. Simple point. And the biggest thing which students do is cut corners. This is also not acceptable. This is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, Alauddin Khilji. Supreme Court is not written like this. Never write it like this. Have to write Supreme Court. Once written Supreme Court, then you have to write in brackets SC and then move forward for SC. Can't leave it to the examiner to figure out if it is SC or SC. So I'm being very blunt in telling you this, that there is a certain protocol which you have to follow, and answer writing is not a joke. That is why from the first hour itself, I am emphasizing on answer writing. And for a history question, what I expect from you is a paragraph, point-wise paragraph form, which is that it aesthetically looks good. And you will save time and also a lot of words in writing the body in point-wise form. So I hope this conversation is useful to you. And I know a lot of people would have told you a lot of things. I am telling you basic things about history answer writing. Cannot be incorrectly writing spellings. Cannot presume the examiner will understand. Cannot write for yourself. And the biggest mistake which students do, or this is what they do it in college. Ask me anything, I will only write what I know. कुछ भी पूछ लो लिखूंगा भाई मैं जानता हूं. You can ask me anything. This question is asking you comparable civilizational. Don't know it, but write what you want to write. That is where you waste words. Be very specific in the examination. Be very specific. If the question is asking you about India-Pakistan relationship, do not start to give Pakistan-US relationship. That, okay, India-Pakistan is this, but I know Pakistan-US relationship well better, I will write that only. If it is asking about the issues in the Ladakh sector, nobody is asking about Arunachal sector. If the question very simply is asking you about something very specific related to a topic, do not show off to the examiner that I know all these points also. You will never be able to finish the examination or the question within the word limit. Question dictates content, not the thematic. Because two questions can be fundamentally different and can have two different emphasis also. Very simply, I'll give you a very simple example. And this is the last point I'll make. Chandrayaan 3 has been in the news, or rather we'll take G20. Let's take G20 in the news, past 2 days. A question which says, for example, India can potentially use the G20 as a launching pad for its international relations. Comment. And I'll change the words of the question and you see how the emphasis will change. This question says, how can India use G20 to push its foreign relations or foreign agenda? Now you change the words, just reverse the words itself. Potentially, G20 can be a game changer for Indian foreign policy. These two questions sound the same, but are fundamentally different. One question wants you to dictate how can India use G20. And the second question does not want you to dictate, but demonstrate that this is how India used G20. One question is projective, other question is factual. These are two very different type of questions, but they sound the same. They sound the same. Same way, the Indus Valley civilization architecturally is comparable to modern cities and towns. This is one type of question. The second type of question could be, can you argue that Indus Valley civilization cities are comparable to modern cities? In both the question, the structure of the answer changes. Here you have to demonstrate. There you have to compare. This is the difference. Understand the difference. Read the question closely. Done? Do not make flowcharts in the examination. Can't leave it to the examiner. This is the flowchart, you figure it out. देख लो जो ढूंढना है ढूंढ लो आंसर इधर ही है. Can't be like that. Never make flowcharts in the examination as your main body. Always write something. Flowchart should be supplementary. So don't do that. Clear? I've put in 10 to 15 minutes on this conversation, but I hope that you understand what I'm trying to argue here, and you understand the importance of this conversation also. Fruitful? Can we make diagrams to add more value? Abhinav, 7 to 8 minutes. If you can make a diagram, sure. I will teach you how to make diagrams in 30 seconds. If you make it in 30 seconds, 50 seconds, or 1 minute, then it's okay. If not, then there's no point. Because if you will start to make maps in every geography question, it will lose its sheen and importance. More than that, you will waste time. It is important, but first write the text. That is what the examiner is looking for. Let's do one thing. Let's take a break here straight so that I don't have to break in Maurya and post Maurya, and we can go on till 8. So it is 6:37. We come back at 37:40. We come at 6:50, and let's take this conversation forward. Can we make small India map to explain how invaders came if the question has been asked? Kashish, firstly, question will never come on invaders. Because it's a mains question will never be asked about ancient. Second question is, how many maps will you make? Invader map, I showed you 8 maps to explain it to you. So why waste time? Firstly, not a plausibility. Secondly, there's no point wasting time. Try it. If you can do it within 5 to 6 minutes, 7 minutes, sure. But some students make India like this. This is not India. This is not India. This is not a map. Understand this point. They learn how to make this. Somebody would have seen a video somewhere and they will say, yes, this is also India. This is India map. This is not India. Don't do that. If you want to make it in the right way. If you cannot, then don't do this. Get my point? How lots of map lose its essence in examination. Hardeep, every question you're making map, irrespective of making actually writing good answers, or making map after map after map. Whole sheet is map. Then the examiner will think you're predictable. That is the point. The examiner will think you're predictable. Marginal utility. The more you will give the examiner, the less he will value it. Get my point. The more you give it, the question is on geomorphology, and you have still is on oceanography, and you give an India map. Why would it be needed? Give a map where it is relevant. Then it makes more sense. Block maps means what? Block maps, you will make India like this. This still doesn't work. Are there any classes on answer writing? Because this is one area. Abhinav, we have answer writing sessions on in webinars on Thursdays. I think the last webinar every month is on answer writing. Can we take a break? Anybody else who wants to ask a question? Correct way to make map. Avni, I am not the right person to answer that question. Mukesh sir would be the right one to answer that question. How to make map? Geography, totally geography, fully geography. So I'm not the right person to tell you that. Literally not the right person. Anyone? Sir, explain something about conclusion. Conclusion, see, in history, conclusions are always easy. If you write the significance or the impact of that thing, you will automatically write a conclusion. Conclusion changes as per subject. For example, how will you conclude in this question? Can anybody tell me how would you conclude in this question? The question I've given you here, how will you conclude in this type of question? The Indus Valley civilization architecturally is comparable to modern cities and towns. Just write keywords for me. Can anybody write the keywords? How do you conclude in this type of question? Come on. If you're having this conversation, let's have one more minute of this. How do you conclude this question? A lot of people are here. Come on, I want to see. Whatever conclusion you write. Summarize what? You can't summarize all the points. This question will have a very specific type of conclusion. Very specific type of conclusion. It's asking you a question. So in the conclusion, obviously you would have to agree with the answer, right? Or agree with the question. You will very simply write, yes, the Indus Valley civilization architecturally is comparable to modern cities and towns. As Niranjan said, just write the same thing with an assertion. That's it. So write about how architecture has influenced architecture. Town planning, Samishta, that's also a good way of writing it. So you can write, I'm pushing it to everybody. You can write what Niranjan said. You can write what Samishta said, that write about how architecture has influenced our architecture. Indus Valley were more developed in architecture. No, no, no. Like this, that is going to be too far fetched. That they are much better. No, no. They are comparable. They are comparable. Hence, the first urbanization very well depicted in crude form of modern civilization. Sure, these are the answers. Chandigarh being model town since Nehruvian era. Vivek, where is Chandigarh in this question? Why are we writing about Chandigarh in this? Why are we bringing in Nehru in this question? I don't know. Okay. Above similarity show IVC buildings, modern cities are comparably same. Very good. So see, you know how to write it. This is the way. Modern cities don't have the features right now, but can be achieved with proper planning. Again, do not criticize the government by saying that you have not given us toilets, but they had toilets. That is also not the right way to say that. They are criticizing the government. Getting my point? Can't be saying that our cities are useless, their cities were better. That can't be. Right? I've pushed enough. I think we can take a break here. I want to start Maurya. Right? So we come back at 6:55 and we take our story forward to start a very interesting and important section. Maurya, keep a pen and paper with you if you don't have it, because here I'll be asking you to make things. Okay. Pritesh, you did not email me. You want to talk to the mentors. If there's an issue, you email me. I will forward it to the mentors. Don't worry. Okay. See you. Welcome back. Good evening. Welcome back. Last 1 hour. Then you get freedom from me for 1 week. Can we start? Everyone's ready? Okay. Now, if you notice one thing, from Indus Valley civilization, I straight away come to Mauryan. Architecture. But why? Why have I skipped Vedic age and Mahajanpadas? Very good. The Vedic age is wholly constructed on the Vedas, which is a text. And very simply, Umira, refresh, I'm not muted. And second, Mahajanpadas, whatever may have been there, does not survive. And that is why we have come to straight Mauryan period. But when we talk about Mauryas, there's also one big issue. And the issue is that when we talk about Mauryan architecture, we had palaces and cities which were made out of wood structures. Then we have what are called pillars, sandstone, Buddhist stupas and caves. But unfortunately, the 90% of all architecture has been lost. Because wood is not a very durable material. How do we know that there were palaces and cities? Because texts refer to very big palaces, but those same texts refer to the fact that they were made out of wood. And wood is not a very durable material when it comes to history. Over thousands of years, you take a, not even thousands of years, you take a piece of wood and keep it in a garden or any place where it is damp, you will see termites will come within 4 to 5 days, which means very simply it cannot survive the test of time. So when I say Mauryan architecture, I basically imply pillars, I imply stupa chaitya, which is both Mauryan and post-Mauryan, and then the most ubiquitous but the very important part of what we call as the 2nd century, 3rd century BCE period, one of the most important architectural expressions, which are caves. Ajanta, Ellora, Karle, what we have, Pandavleni, these are called caves. So we will start with pillars and let's see where we reach, because stupa is very, very important for you. You had a question on stupas also this year. Very easy question if you know about stupas in that regard. But let's start with pillars. Everyone's ready? Do you understand why 90% of Mauryan architecture actually doesn't survive? And why do we not talk about Vedic age and also not something related to what we call today as the Mahajanpada phase? Yes? Okay. Now, let's talk about Mauryan pillars. There are 3 very important questions which need to be answered. And in answering these questions, we will be able to understand pillars itself. First question is, were the Mauryan sandstone pillars a innovative, novel means new concept developed by Ashoka? The first question. The second question is, if no or if yes, how are they unique? And third, what is their purpose and and their structure? The answer to the first question is what? Yes or no? The answer is very good. No. It is a borrowed concept from Achaemenid dynasty. Now, when I say Achaemenid dynasty, do you understand the importance of doing ancient? When I say Achaemenid dynasty, does now Achaemenid dynasty seem to be something random to you? I hope not, because who conquered the Achaemenid dynasty and reached the Indus? Come on. Who conquered the Achaemenid dynasty and reached the Indus? Very good. Great. Alexander. Very good. Extremely proud. Very good. So, no borrowed concept. Then the answer is no. So then how are they unique? We'll try to understand. And what is the purpose and their structure? So let's answer. Let's look at an Achaemenid pillar. See, just for somebody who has no idea, the Achaemenid dynasty was a dynasty which was there from the river Indus till parts of modern day Macedonia, Greece, Iran based Persian dynasty. So it was actually very, very culturally very important. And therefore, the Achaemenid pillars were very unique idea which they developed. The first feature which the Achaemenid pillars have is that they are actually made out of different pieces of stone, which is that they are they are non-monoliths. Monoliths mean, mono means one, lith means rock. So if you are made out of one rock, it means monolith. They're non-monolith. There are basically three components to the pillar itself. So they are sticked together for the purpose of becoming a pillar. Second is that Achaemenian pillars were part of a larger architectural complex, meaning they used to have very big temples and very big halls, and now there is a little bit of empty space in between. So what they used to do was that they used to erect pillars to fill that empty space. So you have, for example, a very big temple like this, and there is a lot of space in between. So what they do is that they very simply have pillars installed so as to fill the space. So their purpose was purely aesthetical, which is they have no administrative or religious purpose. No aesthetical purpose, no aesthetics at all. They are just there for the concept of being there. That's it. Nothing generally. So it's just a simple straightforward aesthetical. It's just there as a random decorative purpose. So first, non-monolith. Second, it's a part of a larger architectural complex. Third, it is purely aesthetical, has no purpose other than just being there. So are we clear with regards to how does an Archimedean pillar look? Or what is the purpose of an Archimedean pillar? Yes, okay. Now, Ashoka borrows this concept from the Achaemenid dynasty, but his pillars are unique in implementation. Implementation. So, how is it unique? Firstly, monolithic pillar, no joints. Second, Chunar sandstone, one of the best for carving out. Thereafter, the point was that these are free standing pillars. What I mean by that is not part of any big complex. Not part of any big complex. The whole area is empty. Ashoka has one pillar in between that whole landscape. Randomly, the pillar is there. Whilst you will see a proper complex in the Achaemenid pillars, Ashoka, randomly, one pillar is there. Nothing specific. So it is a free standing pillar. And last but not the least is that they had administrative and religious purpose, which is Dhamma. So Ashokan pillars always had an inscription on them. And therefore, though the idea was not novel, the implementation was very, very interestingly Indian and very unique to Ashoka in that regard. Now, let's try to consolidate this vis-a-vis a comparative understanding. Achaemenid pillar and Ashokan pillar. You have two pillars. They are side by side against each other. How will you be able to make out how they are different? The first major difference would be non-monolith, monolith. Thereafter, part of big temple or architectural complex. On the other hand, this is freestanding pillar. Thereafter, no inscription and no purpose. Inscriptions and administrative and dhamma purpose with certain inscriptions written here. So you have 1, 2, 3. 3 points of difference and similarity in concept. The only similarity is in concept. Similarity only in concept. Yes, everybody's crystal clear about this idea, because then I talk about the major components and you will make it with me and we will then move to stupas. How both are similar? Because the idea was taken from Achaemenid pillars. So the concept is the same. The concept is the same. The idea was taken from Achaemenid pillar, but purpose and implementation changed. That is the point. That an Ashokan pillar, very simply, Ashoka took the idea from the Achaemenid pillar. However, he implemented it in his own fashion. Monolithic, freestanding, administrative, and inscriptional purpose. On the other hand, non-monolithic, part of a temple complex, and has no purpose other than being a decorative item. Yes? Clear? Okay, great. So, erection of pillars was common in Achaemenid Empire. Mauryan pillars were different from Achaemenid pillars because they were rock cut monolith, which is that they were cut out of rock monolith. Chunar sandstone was used. Idea was to spread Buddhist ideology and court order with administrative purpose. And Ashoka, as you remember, in mainland India used to write in Brahmi script, both Pali and Prakrit language. And in the northwestern sector, either used Khoroshti or Greek script to write Greek or Aramaic language. Aramaic is the language of Central Asia. So what he did was that mostly he used the Khoroshti or the Greek script. This is Greek. This is Khoroshti. And in India, he used Brahmi. Languages mattered where the pillar was. And therefore, he was not writing randomly. He was writing for an audience. Till this point, everybody is with me. So then we discuss the major components of an Mauryan pillar. Components of our Mauryan pillar. And then you have to make it with me. Components of Mauryan pillar. Because this story is only halfway there. Yes, no, I have to say something. Okay. Now, what are the components? See, you have the shaft, which is nothing but the monolithic pillar. I'll Dimanshu tell you what to draw. Don't worry. This you can't draw in the examination. I'll tell you what to draw. Understand first. Monolithic pillar. Then this whole thing together is called the capital. But the capital is divided into two parts. Capital figure and this is nothing but called abacus. Abacus means platform. This is the architectural word. And this is called lower abacus. This is called upper abacus. And because mostly they used to use what is called inverted lotus or bell, it is also called the bell. You take a lotus, you invert it. So you get this type of thing. This is called an inverted lotus. So very simply, you have two major features, but then that further is divided into 2A, 2B, 2C. And this whole thing is called the what we call as abacus. We'll divide it into 3A, 3B. So very simply, these are the features of a Mauryan pillar. To show it to you, this is a shaft and this is a whole capital. Does this capital look a little bit familiar to you in that way? This is the Sarnath capital and this is basically the national emblem. Now see, this is the lower abacus. This is the upper abacus. One second, I need to keep this open. Upper abacus. Not clear. And this is the capital figure. Now, very simply, I can divide it like this. This is A, this is B, this is C. Now, a very standard question which can be asked from you is, in the national emblem, are all three A, B, C or BC or AB, what two or three components are together the part of the national emblem? Very good. A plus B. The government of India did not, at the time of constitution making, they omitted this part. And therefore, only this much is the national emblem. Now, the next important thing which can be asked from you is, what does this chakra represent? This is called the Ashokan chakra. What does this represent? Very good. Again, very well understood. This is called Dhamma chakra parivartana. This is the wheel of the turning of Dhamma. The day Buddha got enlightened, he got the enlightenment as a form of his Ashtang Marg, and that day the wheel of Dhamma turned, and therefore Dharma Chakra Varivartana, the wheel of Dharma turned, because the enlightened one, Buddha, Siddharth became Buddha, and that is represented through this. Now the last component, how many lions are there? Very good. 4. Because you are looking it from the front, there is 1, 2, 3, and 1 is on the back, which is 4, which is on the other side, which is 4, is on the back. 4 lions. Nitesh, not 3, 4 lions. 2D image of a 3D will always show 4 lions. Now, why am I discussing with you? Because if you remember, last year a question came on the importance of lions, but more than that, there was a lot of controversy over the emblem which was installed over the new parliament. So you need to know the basic things about this whole concept itself. Now, it is not that just lions were installed. Everybody's following me till this point? No issues? Yes. Now, you can have lions 1, 2, 3, 4. All numbers we have seen vis-a-vis the Mauryan Empire. We have also seen bull, elephant as different forms of representation. Dhauli elephant capital is the oldest Mauryan pillar known, but they have their own purposes. Lion represents royalty, power, and what we call as fear, not fear, but rather you want to instill fear in enemy. Bull represents fertility, prosperity, and elephant represents grandeur and bigness. Can anybody tell me what is common to these three other than their interpretations? What is common to these three other than that? Not male, there are not male, not sign, not royal gesture, not big, not horse. What is common? Not seen in India. If there's a Dhamma Chakra Parivartana in the middle, they would have another significance. What is it? All are symbols used in Buddhism. These are Buddhist symbols. Elephant represents Buddha, bull represents Buddha, lion represents Buddha. As I said, if the chakra is dharma chakra, then obviously you also have the horse here. If you remember, horse here and the bull here. The simple point is you can see here again lower abacus or bell, upper abacus, and capital figure. Capital figure. It's from Buddhism, yes, inspired not by Mahavira's life but Buddha's life. Now, throughout the empire, we find different animals, and as I said, Dholi elephant is the one of the oldest. The one lion, two lion, three lion, and four lion we've already seen. We have the bull and we have the elephant. But you can see that they are mostly dotted in the core region of the Mauryas. You also have other important pillars, don't have to learn their locations. Sarnath, Rampurva, Sankisa, Lodi and Nandargarh. But very simply, each one of them has a purpose, which is that they represent something for the royalty and for the empire. Now, how do you look at a Mauryan pillar and its four components? One is shaft, which is basically the monolithic stone pillar. The other one is called the lower capital or lower abacus. Lower abacus, which is nothing but an inverted lotus or bell shape. Then the upper abacus or the middle abacus, if you want to, it's about perspective, which could be rectangular or could be circular. And then you have the capital figure, which represents something either for Buddha or when we talk about the imagery out of it. Where is the emblem in the middle pillar? In the middle pillar, this this has broken away. This is, if you've ever been to Delhi or you live in Delhi, there's a hospital very close to Delhi University. It's called Bara Hindu Rao. Bara Hindu Rao Hospital is on the top of the ridge, and this is the Ashokan pillar which was transported by Firoz Shah Tughlaq on the ridge. So that is why you see in the process of bringing it, he could not bring it in one piece, he cut it. And the capital was gone away. But the inscription still remains. There were two pillars he removed. One he put here, the other one he put on the top of Firoz Shah Kotla. So Bala Hindu Rao Hospital or Delhi University Ridge, you'll find this on the top, just next to the 1857 memorial which is there. So I had just used this to show you a shaft. The capital was there. These, imagine how old are these pillars? How old are these pillars? 2600 years. Very old. And the Sarnath capital, as you see, the shaft is in Sarnath. The capital was brought to Sarnath Museum. So very simply, they sometimes remove. Again, for Rampurva Bull capital, the the capital remains. Dholi elephant also capital remains. The pillar was destroyed. So we are very fortunate to have some in full piece. That is a separate issue altogether. Now, we understand the components: shaft, abacus, capital, lower abacus, and upper abacus. Now, the point is, what do you do in the examination? Obviously, you don't have time to make a 3D image. So, rather, in 2D image, you have to make it within 30 seconds. I'll first make it in a slow way. You have to learn to make this because this gives you a lot of leverage in the examination. So, you make a box square, then you make a shaft like this, then you put in something like this, then make a rectangle, and then again a square. Mark it, shaft, lower abacus. It will take you more time to mark it rather. Upper abacus and capital figure and capital. This is the 2D image. Now, very simply, how do you make it fast? Don't have to be Da Vinci in the examination. That's it. Takes 20 seconds to do this, 10 seconds to write it. I am not expecting you to be Michelangelo, Raja Ravi Verma, or Da Vinci, or any other painter you like. You have to make standard, straightforward images. The rule is 20 to 30 seconds to make it. Nothing more, nothing less. If you are putting in more than that, then you're wasting time. So, I want you to make this and mark it. I'm going to show it to you. Again, very simple. Square. You can make it in a better way. I can make it in a better way. Again, and if I can make it with this pen on a glass vacuum, you can make it also. Look at it, make it. Come on. Once you've made it, I'm giving you 1 minute. Everybody is going to say yes. Once you made it, 30 seconds needs to be done. Done? Difficult? Can do it in the examination? Okay. Now you will ask me, what is the purpose? Why? Why? And the reason is to break monotony of the examiner. See, what is going to happen is he will get the same question, same answer every time. Nobody is going to write abacus, lower capital, this, that. An image can make a little bit of difference. And do not, when you're writing this in the examination, the question will be here, then you will have blank space. You write a paragraph, you write points, you write conclusion. Make the image somewhere here. Do not make it on this side. Do not make it on above. Do not make it in the end. Use the left hand margin to make it, so that you are not abruptly trying to show to the examiner that I am wasting the page. And as it is, pages are counted, so cannot waste pages. So you should be able to make it in a small way. You should be able to make it quickly, and it has to be unique in the way that you are able to very simply not waste time in making it also. So I have discussed with you 4 things, or rather, let's go to the original question which we asked, or which I asked you. Were the Mauryan Sandstone Spiller novel? We have discussed no. Now we know how are they unique, and now we know the purpose also. So can I also now successfully argue that you know the structure and the basic components? Because two type of questions can come in the examination. One would be structure, the other one would be uniqueness. If it suffices, I'll give you a question and I'll introduce the concept of stupa to you, because in 20 minutes discussing stupa is not possible. Yes, yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir. Okay. Question. Please laminate, meaning you want me to write what it is, right? This is what you wanted me to do. Huh. Okay. The Mauryan pillars, though not unique in concept, were unique in implementation. Elaborate or elucidate. 250 words, 15 marks. Can you answer this type of question? So till this point, anybody wants to ask anything? Because I'll just introduce the concept of stupa to you, because I don't want to start something which we cannot finish today. So any specific thing? Answers should be sent at islive@byju's.com. We'll be happy to check them for you. Or we would have also known targetis@byju's.com. My biggest request to you and my humblest request to you is, base has no name, Anand, no ways. Please don't send it to me, because I cannot generate a ticket number and I cannot therefore keep track. When it goes to IS Live or it goes to Target IS, a ticket number will be generated. 3 to 4 days it will take to check and it will come back to you. So it after a point becomes extremely difficult to keep track. I will get 50 to 60 emails such like this. So we check the papers, but we check it from a channel. It comes to me from a channel. So I don't need to keep track of whose paper it is, because ticket number is there. So we encourage you to send it to IS Live. A lot of students randomly send me a email. I don't know how I will send it back to you and how will I. There's a channel. There's a certain process for it. So my biggest request to you is, and so some students don't believe IS Live. They tag me also in that email. Sure, why not? But the point is, the answer will come from the IS Live or the target IS system itself. There's a process. Second, elucidate means is to elaborate. Same thing, same exact thing. Elucidate, elaborate are the same thing. Right? Anything you want to ask me? Will you explain directive words? Yes, I will. I will. If not right now, maybe next 2-3 sessions next week, I'll tell you what are directive words. Elucidate, elaborate, same thing, is to expand on what is written. Standard things are there: analyze, explain, elucidate, elaborate, demonstrate. Demonstrate, elaborate, elucidate, same thing. Explain, critically examine, little bit of difference, but the same thing. Number of pages required to use, maximum number of pages. That matters on your handwriting. Somebody writes very big, somebody writes very small. You need to have an handwriting in which in you should be flexible in changing the font with regards to that. Yes, Rafia, you send me a call request. I'm calling you back in the hope that you'll be able to pick it up. Okay. You have asked me, sir, I do not know if this is correct, but I have heard that Achaemenid plays were used for telling the rulers war achievements. No, no, no. Misinformation. Misinformation. There is nothing like that. They are randomly in the. You may be referring to Egyptian pillars. That's a separate issue altogether. Right? There is nothing related to that. Achaemenid pillars are totally aesthetic. I'll show you an Achaemenid pillar. This is an Achaemenid pillar. This I'm going to introduce stupa to you, concept to you for sure. This is a they were divided into pieces. They also had a capital, but they were random. You see, it's part of a larger complex in which they have three pillars standing together. This is a Achaemenid pillar. Okay. Nobody wants to ask anything generally. If not, I'll just introduce the concept to you. Okay. Yes, no. Can I close this topic successfully? I will not discuss it on next Saturday then. Okay. Now, Maurya, post-Maurya period is also the period when Buddhism was very, very active. And the very simple point is, Buddhism architecture took two forms. One is called stupa and the other one is called caves. We are discussing stupa. Now, what is a stupa? I'll show you a stupa, but I will not discuss the components. Stupa is this. This is a stupa. Very simply, don't have to learn it. We will discuss this first thing on Saturday. It has what is called a torana. This is called a toran, which is the gate. It has what is called a medhi, which is the base. It has a anda, which is not a hollow, but a solid anda. Harmika, Yashthi, Chhatra, and what is called the Parjakthin Path. Basically, people can move around it. You can see that there are different sizes in which they can be made. There are multiple stupas. You have the Sachi stupa, and that is the best example. Then you have the Dhamek. This is basically Sarnath, represents something totally different. But the best example of this is actually Sarnath, is actually Sachi. Sachi stupa, this is the image. And this is basically a stupa. The railing is there. There's a toran. There's a pardakshin path. There's an anda. There's a medhi, which is the base. And there are stairs to go up and down. There's a harmika box. And then there's a what we call as yashti. And then chhatra. This is the basic point. This is what is a stupa. What I mean by a stupa. Now, the question is, what is the purpose of stupa? We'll discuss this today, and that is the only thing we discuss about stupas. Now, see, when Buddha died, we want something to remember Buddha. How do you remember a peer? How do you remember a peer? through his dargah, right? This is like the dargah of Buddha, wherein and now understand this point. Buddha used certain things. For example, this remote, this pen, this bottle, this vacuum, right? So these are things which Buddha used. These are called relics, things which Buddha used. Don't ask me what is Harmika and all. That is for next Saturday. Now tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Would Buddha have used unlimited items throughout his life? No. So what used to happen was, initial stupas, for example, the first 100 and 200, used to keep in the Harmika or inside the Anda, the relic, making this a holy site. Making this a holy site. So the purpose of the stupa as it started was basically as a pilgrimage site. It's as a pilgrimage site. But later, relics are limited. So later, the stupa was made, relic was not put, but it was presumed that the relic is there. So first it started as a proper practice, later it became symbolic. But we presume that every stupa has a relic, which is technically not true, but has a relic for sure. That is why it's a holy site. So first 100, 200, maybe 600, 800 stupas may have had the relic inside them. But if I make a stupa today, can I have a relic of Buddha inside it? No, but still it will be called a stupa only. And more than that, the concept is that it represents Buddha. So it represents Buddha. But a very important question comes in, is that is stupa specific or an innovation of the Buddhists? And the answer to that question is no. See, when you bury a person, there's a mount which is there. If I buried a person, it basically represents a burial mount. And burial mounts were very common in the Vedic period also. The Jains also used to have what are called burial mounts to represent the dead. So the concept of Buddha, the concept of stupa is not unique to Buddhism. But the implementation is unique to Buddhism. Get my point? The concept, like Echemedian pillars and Mauryan pillars, the concept is not unique, but the implementation is. So I've told you two things right now, that stupas are a architectural expression which represent a burial mound and initially used to have relics inside them, but later symbolically represented Buddha. It is a pilgrimage site representing the holy site of Buddha. It's a pilgrimage site. That is the first purpose. Anybody has any issue in understanding the first purpose? The first purpose. Anybody? No. But it's not that innocent. It's not that innocent, because stupas purpose pilgrimage site. Vivek, listen to me for 50 minutes talking about this only. First is pilgrimage site. Nobody has no issue. But this is not an innocent building. This is not an innocent building. The location of this stupa is where the Buddhists were basically using something very interesting. The location was always on trade routes, plain areas, and important roads. Now, if you've been on a highway, you've been on a highway ever? Been on a highway? Sometime in your life? So when you go on the highway, you see very, very big billboards of creams, of Colgate, of something on the left, something on the right. Big, big billboards are there. Yes? You've seen very big advertisement boards. Not even highway, in cities you see big, big advertisement boards. This is an advertisement for Buddhism. This is an advertisement for Buddhism. I'm traveling on this trade route. I could have put this anywhere, but I've kept it on the trade route where the footfall is quite a lot. And I see this structure. Don't know anything about Buddhism. So I see the structure and say, what is this? So on the Torana, they used to have, guess whose story? Guess whose story? Buddha's story. Basically, the gate was like an advertisement. Jatak stories, stories of Buddha. Okay, you don't know. So here is a man called Buddha. He did the following. See, this building, this structure was as much as to propagate Buddhism, was to also commemorate Buddha. Because if I wanted to make it as a pilgrimage site, I would keep it in a holy place. Why would I keep it on a trade route? So stupas, as much as they are pilgrimage sites, they're also a propagating tool, and the pillars and the gates and the money was actually taken from merchants. And their names were also written that this pillar has been made by. Very simply, it was to tell the people that, oh, you don't know about Buddha. See, this is Buddha. Look at the Buddha. Have you realized one thing? All our major temples, are they on trade routes or are they in very secluded spaces? In North India, major, very, very, what are called Shakti Peeths. They are extremely secluded. Kedarnath, Badrinath, even Amarnath, all are in secluded, very difficult terrain to reach. Because there was a pilgrimage angle only. You need to, Vaishno Devi. Yes. You look at any site, even Lord Venkateshwara, Tirumala Parvat, all Rameshwaram, the way you reach there is very difficult. Because there's a test of your faith in that. Here, there's no test of faith. It is about paying homage to Buddha, but it is not an innocent pilgrimage site. Its location, as interpreted by historians, had a specific purpose for spreading Buddhism also. Make sense? Or it's an absurd argument which historians are making? Absurd? Makes sense. Makes sense. So, on this note, let's stop for today. When we come back next week, anybody please who is watching this later also as a video, try to be live next week, because we'll be doing temple architecture, very important. So we'll do stupa, we'll do cave, we'll do temple architecture, and by Saturday, I think we should reach Delhi Sultanate. Sunday, we'll finish Mughal architecture, very important. And then we will start painting, sculpture. And by next Sunday, I believe the big three should be over. The big three should be over. Very important for mains examination. Right? So I thank you. I will see you next week. I hope the way of teaching of art and culture is at least engaging and it is making sense to you. You are able to understand better and it is at least not boring. That is the most important point. Because what is the problem with Nitin Singhania is it tends to become bland. So if it's making sense, thank you. Any other thing, you can always point out to me, not an issue. Good night. Thank you for being there from Saturday to Sunday. I will see you next Saturday. Have a productive week day and please revise before you come. That is the least you can do. And very simply, ancient medieval done. Your process of consolidation should start. Maximum 50, 60 or 100 facts will be there. With more than 200 days, 2 facts every day, you will be able to repeat them 4 to 5 times. Just be disciplined, and I hope that your fear of history should be over and it should become one of the subjects which you actually believe that you can answer the questions. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.